How you feeling? You got John Riggs here, and welcome to the family. Renting games was one of those things that we all did so often growing up, at least people in my generation for sure. I loved renting video games. It's one of those nostalgic memories I still hold today with the rest of my video gaming nostalgia. So on this list, 10 Nintendo games you were glad you rented. For the most part, you're glad you rented them because it meant, man, maybe they're okay, but paying full price for them, I mean, if you knew it was going to be a great game, you didn't rent it, you just had it. You bought it. You got it for birthday. You got it for Christmas. You didn't need to rent it. You didn't need to waste your money on it because you knew you were going to own it. These games on this list are right down the middle, buddy. Like Bill Alfonso, right down the middle. Here's 10 of them. Here we go. Gotta start off with Time Lord, and I'm here to tell you I love Time Lord. The games on this list may still be sentimental, they still may be awesome, they still may be favorites, they still may be that good look, feel good vibe of just playing a video game and it takes you back, and that's awesome. But these games are on the list. Again, you're glad you rented them. In this game, as my friend Ian put it, if it was a color, it would be beige. It's just going right down the middle. Not offensive, not good, not great. I think it's pretty cool though. So, I mean, it starts off in the future with a super short level. You go back in time to medieval times, and then you work your way through different time eras. I'm going back all the way with medieval times. You have to find these orbs, and these orbs will unlock the rest of the level, or they'll make you so you can, get to the boss and defeat the boss and move on to the next stage. But the orbs are collected in different ways. Sometimes you'll just see them laying around. That's fine. Sometimes you have to do like a gimmick or a trick to get to them. So that makes it kind of interesting to find out how you get the different orbs. It makes each level kind of unique and interesting and fun. I mean, outside of just the whole, what time era you're in and everything. I thought the music was pretty cool. I thought the game's pretty cool. But again, when it comes to renting video games, not a lot of people like this game. I happen to like it, but let's put it on the list. Time Lord, a personal favorite, but man, you're glad you rented it. I mean, seriously, you gotta at least check it out sometime, right? Dino Wars has to make the list because it's like, this game should have been awesome. I remember seeing this in Nintendo Power first, and I was like, how could I not love this game? It's dinosaurs. It's not just dinosaurs, it's robot dinosaurs. Robotic dinosaurs. And it has a little, you play as the human interacting phase too. So the split stages in this game here. You play as the dude jumping around on the platforms, avoiding the spikes, killing the other enemies. You jump into your giant mecha dinosaur. This is the fun part. This thing looks completely awesome. This thing looks like something that was, I mean, man, this toy could have sold millions. And then you look like this. I was like, well, thanks for trying. Alright, so then you play as this Dino Robot, and you just go around and Dino Robot punching and shooting your weapon and stuff like that. You can get your upgrades too. You get your upgrades as well. You're fighting off the other dinosaurs, who also look like they might be robots too. Why can't I jump in those? I want to jump in these guys. Does feature bosses in this game too, so you can defeat the bosses as well, move on through the stages. I forget how many stages. 8 stages maybe in Dino Wars, something like that. Progressively harder, kinda. But I mean, again, not the greatest game in the world, but man, find it on sale, or better yet, just rent it over the weekend, play all the way through it, beat it, hopefully, return it. Hey, another notch in your belt there for games you've beaten. Another kind of fun favorite of mine is Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle. Kind of an earlier CAMEO game. It features, this game could have been anything. It just happened to be Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tune cast. In fact, this game was re-released in different areas, though same puzzle idea on Game Boy as Mickey Mouse games. But your Bugs Bunny, I would call this a puzzle game more than like a platformer or an action game. You don't jump, but you do have to collect all the carrots in each stage, and the stage ends left or right. It's usually about 3 or 4 screens worth only, sometimes up and down as well. And you avoid the other characters who might be different colors because there's a lot of the same ones on here. They all act the same way basically. They just kind of move around. Some of them kind of stall sometimes. You can defeat them by dropping things on their head. You can pick up a boxing glove to punch them and knock them out, but really just get all the carrots, move on to the next stage. There is a ton of stages. I don't remember how many off the top of my head, but it does feature a password screen. So instead of purchasing this game and then you're like, well, I got it, now I'm stuck with it forever, rent it. Play it as much as you can. Write down the password, return it. Maybe a month down the line, maybe a couple months later, you still have that password. Type it in again. You can carry on from there. I do like this game. It's been a long time since I played all the way through it. Not since back in the early 90s, but I mean, it's pretty fun, I think. But you might have other opinions on it, but again, it makes the perfect rental. We got POW, which is the game that taught me that POW stood for Prisoners of War. I loved the arcade version of this game. However, the Nintendo game, it played really well. It wasn't 2-player simultaneous. I wish it was. That would have been awesome. However, very fun game all the same. And this is one of those games, I have no idea why I never asked for this. I think it's because I would rent it sometimes. You know, I'd rent it sometimes. But when it came for like purchasing a game like for my birthday or for Christmas, I always went for like a Castlevania or a Mega Man or a Turtles or something. And then this game was always like, no, we have that at the rental store. If I want to play it, I'll just rent it. I mean, it's neat. You know, beat up the bad guys. You can pick up other items, pick up other weapons, you know. There's nothing wrong with this game. It's actually a very, very good game, very true to the arcade version and everything. I rented it more than I ever bought it. And it was funny because I don't remember ever needing to purchase it. I was like, I'll play it when I get around to it. It's all good. Prisoner of War, it's awesome. It was a great rental. Zexy's another game that's just like, the box art tells you nothing. The look at the back, it's like, well, it looks okay. I mean, it looks kind of weird, but whatever, I'll figure it out. Another game that features the password screen, so you can write down your password, save it for later, rent the game later if needed. And I actually kind of like this game quite a bit. I would consider this a hidden gem. I mean, it's been featured before. And it has multiple ideas of how to play this game. You can go through the opening stages here. That's where you can go inside these rooms. You pick up your upgrades, pick up your items, get yourself ready for the boss fights and all that. But then when you're in the, I guess you'd call them castles, I mean, I suppose, for lack of better terms, then you go through these doors or go through these corridors, even like tubes on the top and the bottom to move through. It turns into a shooting stage, side-scrolling shooters as part of this game too. So some mixed up gameplay elements to keep you moving, keep you going. I think it's super fun, but with that password selection screen and just the like, do I need to own it? Well, I mean, I liked it, but not everyone else did. I think it's definitely worth renting though. And we've gotten this far for me to let you know. Sorry to say, the Benjamin Franklin skullet's still here. I don't know, should I keep the skullet? Should I shave it? Make sure you're subscribed, you never know what's gonna happen next. Maybe I'll shave it in a future video, we'll see. How about Jairus? Jairus is a pretty cool shooter. Well, you have to make your way through the planets, and you do so by gyrating around in a circle, where most shooters are just like, you know, top down up, or your vertical shooters or horizontal shooters. This one is a cylinder shooter, cyclone shooter. You go around the screen here, like, you know, around in a circle. You know, kind of like a Tempest from back in the day. And Jairus in the arcade had that kind of 360 controller where you would do that. It works pretty well on the NES pad all the same. There were so many shooters, there were so many space shooters for the NES. Some of them were really, really great. Some of them were definitely worth owning. This one, I mean, it's at least worth a rental. It's at least worth checking out. If you're gonna buy a shooter, I mean, go for the Life Force or something like that. You know, go for something cool. This game, very cool. Didn't need to own it, but definitely worth renting. The Adventures of Dino Ricky. One of the craziest names anyway. This game looks like it could be cool, but it is an auto-scrolling, it's basically a vertical shooter at this point. It's basically a vertical shooter with some platforming elements too, which make it even more awkward. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard, especially at the very, very beginning. Once you get your upgrades, once you get your better firepower and stuff like that, and like literal firepower, you can actually get like flames to shoot. It gets a little bit easier, but the platforming elements, jumping from lily pad to lily pad, you will die more times falling off the screen into the water than you would anything else. And you'd figure somebody living during this time would want to know how to swim as a survival technique, but I digress. As you're moving through the stages, again, you pick up your better firepower and all that, your upgrades along the way. You can pick up going faster, which sometimes might kill you, because then you can also jump farther, but then you might jump too far. You have to, maybe you might overcompensate your jumps. Imagine buying this game at full price. Imagine spending $60 just looking at the back of the box, because you don't have the internet for videos. Maybe you don't have a friend who has it, but it's like, oh, it looks pretty cool. It's from Hudson Soft, and Hudson Soft makes nothing but great games. Again, this game's not bad, but man, it's worth renting, because, ooh, I would not have liked it, if I had my choice of any game, and this was what I was left with for, for until Christmas. It's happened, I'm sure. Ooh, we have Mystery Quest. What is up with this game, seriously? Like, is it supposed to be a kid's game? Because it's actually pretty hard, and I've never beaten it. It just goes on too far. It's almost too happy, which is hard for me to explain. This game, it's missing something, it's missing everything, but maybe it's missing nothing. Maybe I'm the one missing from this equation. Am I the demographic for this? I might be. I may have been at one time. I mean, it looks like a game for the Sega Master System, and if this game was on the Sega Master System, maybe I would love it more. I did play this game quite a bit when I was younger, and I remember not getting anywhere. I remember getting lost all the time. Why did I continue to play this game? Well, I don't know. The music hypnotized me, I think. Maybe it spoke to me, I don't know. But what a great rental this was, because it's not a terrible, terrible game, and the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Has some puzzle platforming elements, has some action elements in it too. I mean, the music's, you know, bright and catchy, the colorful's really, really bright. What's not to love about this game? Well, you'll find out when you play this game, and then wait a while, and then it'll come back to you again. It's just like Hostess Snowballs. I mean, it's a marshmallow-covered chocolate cake with cream inside and coconut on the outside. What's not to love until you take a bite and you're just like, oh, that's why. Yeah, it's all these combinations. Nah, better individually, not combined. That's the true mystery of Mystery Quest. From an earlier game to an older game, we have The Jungle Book. Now, when The Jungle Book was released for the NES, the Super Nintendo was already out, the Super Nintendo was already red hot, but they were still making NES games, and The Jungle Book was one of the final games they made. And it was best to rent because you were already moving on. I mean, Genesis was already red hot, and then the Super Nintendo was already on fire. This thing was like, well, but I still want to check it out. I still want to see it. I don't need to pay for it. If I'm going to pay for it, I'm going to pay for a Super Nintendo game. I'm not paying for full price for an NES game. Well, perfect, you can rent it. I remember seeing this and I was actually very impressed with the graphics, the animation more than anything. I was just, man, this is awesome. It's like, where was this Nintendo game back in the day before Super Nintendo came out? Well, even though I had a Super Nintendo and played it religiously, I did rent this game just so I could check it out. And I was like, man, this is a great Nintendo game. It's too bad that, you know, they're not making as many Nintendo games anymore. The game I promise is real is Digger T-Rock, The Legend of the Lost City, starring Digger T-Rock there. Bit more of an uncommon game too, but when you look at it, you're just like, oh, I mean, I get it. It's interesting. So you're in the catacombs, you're in the caves, and you're going around. You're actually losing oxygen along the way too. You're kind of losing your life source there. But you just gotta find the door to the caverns and move on. And then you can find these other little hidden caverns too and collect some stuff there. This is the game that should have been Super Pitfall. If this was Super Pitfall, it would have made $1 million. It's not, so it's a little exploration, a little dig dug, because you're digging through the sand and all that. But you're Digger T-Rock and you have your shovel that you can thwack enemies with. Is thwack the right onomatopoeia for hitting someone with a shovel? Maybe it's thwump or thwang. I don't know. Digger T-Rock, paying full price for it wasn't needed. Renting it is completely, fully suitable. And maybe there are some great games that you rented back in the day. Tell me in the comments, please. I'm sure I rented them as well. I've covered other NES list videos just like this, maybe a topic that you wouldn't even consider, but you're like, I never thought about that, but what about it? Well, you can check out these other videos in the meantime. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. More videos super soon. We'll see you soon. I'm telling you, I could cosplay as Benjamin Franklin and rock it.